Happy New Year! The Robbie Rob Show is back. Here we go. Happy New Year, everyone, and welcome to the Robbie Rob Show. It is good to see you here in 2021. I am Robbie Robinson, and I am glad that you have taken time out of your busy schedule to actually participate in this ongoing experience that we have been going through since 2020. Over the last couple of months now, we kind of dove a little bit into some of these major reformations, the denominations, and really knowing the background as to why do we believe what we believe? Why do we practice some of the things that we practice? So today is going to be no different. Today we're going to actually discuss the ideology of Presbyterianism and then focus on the Presbyterian Church USA. I guess before I get started, I need to get into something more my style. Let's see if we can do this right. There we go. I think that's actually a little bit better. I guess I could do something about this hair too. Let's see. There we go. That better for you all? Great. Now, let's get this party started. Now, before we get started, as I do in every video, you make sure that you go to Anthony Junebug Turner's YouTube page. He is the reason why we have the theme song Nobody But God. That is his original creation. He has given me permission to use that. So we want to give credit where credit is due. It's going to be on the bottom of this description where I will put his Cash App. Sow good seed into somebody. This is a man, he is in ministry. He is a musician in his own right. He is very talented. He is a school teacher teaching music at the school he teaches at. He is just a wonderful guy, and we want to make sure that he gets all the due that belongs to him. So make sure. I'll also leave my Cash App later on at the end of the show. So, how did we get to the Presbyterian Church? I mean, we've done the Roman Catholic Church, we've done Calvinism, we've done John Knox. So how do we go from the Roman Catholic Church all the way to the Presbyterian Church, specifically the PCUSA, who we'll talk about today? Well, here's where it begins. So starting out, we have the early church. This is the church that we can find in the book of the Acts of the Apostles, after the days of Pentecost. These are the churches that were founded by the Apostle Peter, the Apostle Paul, and the rest of the apostles that followed Jesus Christ. Later on, we find out that the Apostle Peter had been established as the Bishop of Rome, and it is from here where we get the Roman Catholic Church. Now, if you've been following me, you know that this was episode 2 and 3, where I did a 2-part series about the Roman Catholic Church. So in lieu of time, I would tell all of you, go back to my videos, watch episode 2 and 3, and it'll explain to you the prominence and the prevalence of the Roman Catholic Church. But here, from the early church, we have the first and the oldest established denomination that came from the churches that were formed in Acts. My first biographical sketch that I did on the Robbie Rob Show dealt with this man, John Calvin. He dissented from the Roman Catholic Church, and he was very big and prominent in establishing many of the what we would call the Protestant churches that we see here in America. And so he dissented from the Roman Catholic Church. The studies of John Calvin came the mentality and the ideology of Calvinism. Now, it is Calvinism where we find in many of our Protestant denominations, we find Calvinism among Baptist churches. We find Calvinism among congregational churches, churches of Christ. We find it in many denominations. But it was from the birth of Calvinism did we learn about the Scottish reformer known as John Knox. And John Knox would be very much responsible for spreading the mentality of Presbyterianism, not only across Europe, specifically in Scotland, but later on, as we will find out in this episode, across the Americas as well. Now, this is how we arrive in Presbyterianism, all the way down through this line. And that's what we're going to be focusing on today. We're going to be focusing on Presbyterianism and the formation of the Presbyterian Church USA. Later on, you're going to find out where we're going to go from here. That's going to be a surprise I leave for later this video. And that's how we get to where we are with Presbyterianism. So, let's go ahead and set the scene. Here's how the Presbyterian Church USA began. The PCUSA can trace its origins back to the Protestant Reformation in the 1500s. John Calvin, the well-known French theologian who spread much of the Reformed thinking into Geneva, was a mentor of John Knox, the former Roman Catholic priest from Scotland. He took Calvin's teachings across Scotland and led the Scottish Reformation in around 1560. Also, the Church of Scotland embraced the Reformed theology and the Presbyterian polity. These teachings would spread to the Ulster Scots, also known as the Scotch Irish, which started the Presbyterian Church in Ireland. By the year 1640, immigrants from Scotland and Ireland brought Presbyterianism to America. Also, many Puritans from New England would leave their local congregational churches in favor of Presbyterian polity. From the 1730s to the 1740s, North America would experience its first Great Awakening, in which Protestants would have these large revivals and the Presbyterian movement would have a large increase. However, ministers such as William and Gilbert Tennent would push for a higher standard of moral fortitude and living among the clergy. Additionally, these two brothers would push for the congregation to have a conscious spiritual rebirth. Of course, there were those who didn't see the need for that. The opponents would disagree over educational requirements, revivalism, and its necessity, and traveling preachers. As a consequence of this would result in a 17-year division known as the Old Side, New Side controversy. So, what were the differences? When it comes to government of the church, the Old Side believed that the synod was higher than the presbytery. Now, for those of you who don't know what a synod or a presbytery is, don't worry about it. Rob got you covered. You'll find out later on. As I mentioned before, the Old Side believed that the synod was higher than the presbyteries. The New Side believed that the synod was a higher court that only had the power to advise, not legislate. In ministries, New Side ministers would preach in churches that was under the jurisdiction of the Old Side ministers, who were offended by this. The New Side was offended that they could not preach in these churches as all of them were Presbyterian. One final major point of contention was that the Old Side ministers accused the New Side ministers of condemning of being unconverted, and that ministers could not do good if they were unconverted. The New Side said that the Old Side did not require narratives from the terrors of the law. In the Commonwealth of Virginia, many Scotch-Irish settlers would have more energetic and frequent services. More people were attracted to this style of worship versus the mundane liturgy of the Anglican Church, and a rare agreement between blacks and whites during that time. Presbyterian liturgy united these two races with its emotional worship, biblical simplicity, and the singing of psalms. Now, let's not be ignorant. Slavery was still going on, slavery was still the norm, and some churches even owned slaves to be used for plantations. Woo, yes, sir, boss. I tell you, that was a mighty fine service. It be cold out here, but it's fire on the inside. Yes, sir. Ooh, thank you, Lord. Yes, sir, yes, sir, yes, sir. It was a mighty good service, Mr. Beauregard, sir. A good service, I said so myself. Mhm. Now, that's what you call a sermon that folks need to hear about the good Lord. Now, tell me, Rufus, what did you learn about this here sermon? Oh, yes, sir. I heard what the good Reverend said, and we know some boss eyes a little slow up here and don't much be working too well. But one thing I do know, man talked about that God give us all our food and our needs. Yeah, that gives me good hope, sir. Good hope.
And the good Reverend done told us about their talked about us being equals, and like brothers and sisters. You understand, boss? You're a fine, good master, and I just loves you some Master Beauregard. So I just the whole Sunday was just beautiful, just beautiful. You know what, there, Rufus? You got a point there. Mm-hmm. With tobacco right here. The good Reverend did talk about us being brothers and sisters. So you know something? The good Lord want us all to be, you know, get together. I know my place and you know your place. You understand what I'm talking about, don't you, son? Well, boss, Lord, it's mighty cold out here. Whew. Since the good Reverend was talking about us being brothers and sisters, does that mean that I still got to go take care of the chillins and the goats and the pigs and the cotton too? I got to do that. Do I got to do that, boss? You got to take care of the cotton and the pigs. Lord, yeah. Them pigs ain't gonna sow themselves. The cows ain't gonna milk themselves. Chickens ain't gonna hatch themselves. And Lord knows them children walking around here all sorts of crazy, acting like they ain't got no sense. Yeah, you and the old nappy head girl there, yeah. Cause like I said before, I knows my place. You's gotta know yours. You understand me, son? You hear when I'm talking to you, boy? Know your place. I just really gotta do that. But 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 the Rev said we can, folks. That's what the Rev. You heard what I said. Well, I reckon you right, boss. I'll go on and I'll go on and get the food now. Before you go on, Rufus. Now look, I want you to do me a favor, because you are my good niggers. You know how to get things done. And look, do that little dance that my wife was talking about. Do that dance that y'all niggers do, and that y'all get happy in the church. Do that dance. Do that dance, boy. Oh yes, boss. That's it. Yes, indeed, boss. I do that my powerful jigs for you. Yes, sir. That makes you happy, boss. That makes you happy. You see that there, boy? You see him when he do that dance? Boy, that's the best part of the church. When them colored them niggers go on and they do that knee slapping thing. Boy, you tickle me. I tell you, you just tickle me. Yeah, look. After you go on and do that little dance here, like I said, go on to work now. Because you know what's gonna happen. Yes, sir, boss. I'll take care right away. How you doing, Miz? See, what boss don't know is, shh, he talk about us now. But you watch, it gonna be some mighty long time. It may be hundreds of years, but he gonna end up, and his kind gonna end up dancing just like we watch. You watch what I say. They gonna dance just like this. Ooh, Lord.
Much, much, much later.
See? I told you. That's why Master breath sting. Lord, he heard me. Gotta go, gotta go.
By the time the USA became independent from Great Britain, the Presbyterians decided to officially create a denomination. And one was officially created in 1789, the Presbyterian Church in the United States of America. Its first meeting was in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, and the first moderator was the president of Princeton University at that time, John Witherspoon. No, 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 not that one. This one. But of course, not everyone was on one accord. There were some divisions within the General Assembly of the denomination, and a second Presbyterian denomination was formed some 69 years later, the United Presbyterian Church of North America. By the 19th century, the United States was full of Presbyterians, Congregationalists, Baptists, and Methodists. A second group of Protestant revivals would take place, known as the Second Great Awakening. The Presbyterians were very influential and instrumental in forerunning missionary work, evangelical work, reforming work, and educational advancements. But the haters, the non Presbyterians, feared that the Presbyterian Church of the United States of America, the influence that they have, would make it an official denomination, which would go against the institution of the separation of church and state. But that wasn't all. There was a fear of the spread of Armenianism. What is Armenianism? I'm so glad that you asked. Armenianism is named after Jacobus Arminius, a Dutch Protestant reformer. For simplicity's sakes, here are the main differences between Arminianism and its counterpart Calvinism, which was very prominent among Presbyterian and among Presbyterianism in general. In 1810, due to the fear of Arminianism, frontier revivalists from the Presbyterian Church in the United States of America split and formed the Cumberland Presbyterian Church. And by the 1820s, there was yet another divide between the old school and the new school, which divided the Presbyterian Church in the United States of America. You see, the old school, which members had such as Charles Hodge, Ashbel Green, George Duncan, and Samuel Stanhope Smith, were conservative and wasn't supportive of these revivals. They preferred traditional Calvinistic doctrines and more high church liturgy. The new church, with members such as Nathaniel William Taylor, Lyman Beecher, who is the father of Harriet Beecher Stowe, Samuel Fisher, and Charles Finney, embraced revivalism and rejected old Calvinism and instead leaned to their own interpretation of God and the Holy Bible. By 15, excuse me, let's try that again. By 1858, the new school, which would have split amongst themselves over slavery and the formation of pro-slavery, created the United Synod of the Presbyterian Church. In 1861, the old school was split in much the same manner with the formation of the Presbyterian Church of the Confederate States of America. In 1864, the Presbyterian Church in the Confederate States of America absorbed the United Synod to form the Presbyterian Church in the United States, also commonly known as the Southern Presbyterian Church. In 1869, the Northern Presbyterian Church in the United States of America, old and new school factions, would reunite and would be known as the Northern Presbyterian Church. By the 20th century, there was a divide in theological ideology. There was a rising of fundamentalism in Christianity, which is the belief of the literal interpretation of the Bible, which was much different than modernist Christianity, which is the belief that the interpretation needs to be modernized thanks to industrialization and the growing of major cities. In 1922, Harry Emerson Fosdick, who was a Baptist preacher preaching and pastoring in a Presbyterian church, preached a sermon entitled Shall the Fundamentalists Win?, which caused a lot of controversy. Also, the Presbyterian Church in the United States of America ordained two men who could not affirm the virgin birth of Jesus. As such, there was a backlash against modernism in the Presbyterian Church. The conservative group of the Presbyterian Church branched out in 1936 and formed the Orthodox Presbyterian Church. Keeping up with me so far? Wait, there's more. Back in 1906, the Presbyterian Church joined the majority of the Cumberland Presbyterian Church, and in 1920, it was merged with the Welsh Calvinist Methodist Church. The United Presbyterian Church of North America merged with the Presbyterian Church in the United States of America in 1958 to form the United Presbyterian Church in the United States of America. Talk about a mouthful. With this union, 9 years later, the Confession of 1967 was formed, which was the denomination's first new confession in 3 centuries. But just as things began to come together, things would surely fall apart. Again.
The issue of civil rights and the issue of the ordination of women in 1973 caused yet another split. This split was known as the Presbyterian Church in America. Finally, on June 10th, 1983, the UPCUSA, the United Presbyterian Church in the United States of America, and the Presbyterian Church of the United States merged together to form what is now known today as the Presbyterian Church USA, and its headquarters was established in Louisville, Kentucky. Well, now that we have a basic ideology of the history behind the PCUSA, let me just give you some quick facts. As of 2018, according to the official website PCUSA.org, there are 19,243 ordained ministers in the Presbyterian Church USA as of the year 2018. Of all the Presbyterian sects in the faith, the Presbyterian Church USA is the largest. Now, the PCUSA follows the official constitution of the PCUSA from two particular parts. The Book of Confessions, for which, for the sake of time, I will continue basically everything that it has. For the sake of time, I don't want to go through every single part, but I'll just tell you what it has. It has the Nicene Creed, the Apostles' Creed, the Scots Confession, the Heidelberg Catechism, the Second Helvetic Confession, the Westminster Confession of Faith, the Shorter Catechism, the Larger Catechism, the Theological Declaration of Barmen, the Confession of 1967, the Confession of Belhar, and the Brief Statement of Faith, and the Book of Over, which the document that defines the way the government within the PCUSA works. This is broken down into four particular parts. You have the foundations, the form of government, directory of worship, and the rules of discipline. And that is a lot. Now, of course, if you're Presbyterian, you're probably used to this and you're probably familiar. And even if you are Presbyterian, or, you're not quite sure about this, hey, everybody learns something new every day. Now, that's the basis. That's the ground root. Now, you're going to hear me talk about some positions within the PCUSA that you probably have never heard of before. So I'm going to do my best to break this down. So, in the PCUSA, there are various positions. So, we're probably familiar with one of them, the deacon, right? The deacon's duties can be found in 1 Timothy, where it talks about how a deacon is the one who basically takes care of the needs of the congregation. A deacon in the PCUSA they are appointed in the congregational level who take care of the sick, the needy, and the poor. As I mentioned, this you can find in 1 Timothy. Now, outside of deacons, you have two kinds of elders, and we'll group this together for ministers. Ministers in the PCUSA are, number one, they're called two specific things. You have teaching elders. These are the ones who are responsible for teaching the primacy of the Word of God and the ideology of the teaching church. And then you have the ruling elders, who are responsible for overseeing the work of ministry and making sure the gospel is relevant within the congregation. Only ruling elders can be installed as the pastor of a local church. So I want to make sure I say that. Now, I really want to dedicate this particular part when we talk about women in ministry. Now, later on, I'll probably do a show because it's such a controversial topic. But when it comes to women in ministry, since its formation in 1983, women have been ordained as both teaching and ruling elders. In some of the predecessing denominations, the first woman ascribed to the ministry was in 1893 by the name of Edith Livingston Peake. Edith Livingston Peake. That's how you say it. Thank you all very much. Between 1907 and 1920, 5 more women became ministers. The first woman ordained in the PCUS Southern Branch was Reverend Rachel Henderlight. She was unique in that she was ordained in, watch this, a predominantly black congregation, my hometown. Well, not my hometown, but my adopted town, Richmond, Virginia. This was back in 1965. She was ordained at the All Souls Presbyterian Church. And I'll make sure I'll show a little picture of that later on.
Now let's talk about the polity, the PCUSA. The PCUSA follows its namesake polity, the Presbyterian polity. You see, there are four major kinds. There is congregational polity, in which power seats in the authority of laity. In other words, the power is in the pew. There is episcopal authority, which seats the power of authority in the bishops. Then there's a lesser known called connexionalism, in which there is a group of bishops that work along with the legislator. But the Presbyterian polity places the governance of authority in a board of elders, which, when we translate that, we get the word presbyteros, which is from where we get the word presbyter, or an elder. They're the ones that work in higher sessions. Many people like to call the Presbyterian polity the middle management polity. You see, there are four specific levels. The first level is the session. Now, the session is made up of the pastor and all the elders, both teaching and ruling elders. A session is called by the pastor, or in his or her absence, a minister elected by the presbytery. The pastor serves as moderator and presides over the ordination of elders and deacons. The session directs the affairs of the local church. However, the congregation is the entity that votes on the calling and installation of the pastor with the approval from the presbytery and the compensation of the pastor. In other words, they choose how much the pastor gets paid. The session also serves as the electors of the elders and deacons, as well as the buying of property for the local church. Of course, this will also be done with the aid of trustees. Additionally, the session oversees the work of the deacons, the budget of the church, programs within the church, and the work with the trustees in cases involving personal property and contracts for employees in the. The second governing body is called the presbytery, which is made of the congregations in the local area. The presbytery is the combination of laity, teaching, and ruling elders. It is the presbytery who holds actual authority to ordain teaching and ruling elders, install or remove elders as pastors, and remove and strip credentials of a minister from ministry. Uniquely, pastors cannot be in charge of the congregation they serve because they are accountable to the presbytery, not the session. Additionally, presbyteries can merge, establish, or dissolve congregations. Each presbytery has two official officers: a moderator, who is elected annually and serves as the CEO of the presbytery, as well as chief celebrant in ordinations and installations within the presbytery, and a slated clerk, who serves as the executive secretary of the presbytery and who is also elected annually but has no term limits. There are also executive presbyters, who are staff people who are much like the COOs of the presbytery. And as a general rule, a presbytery meets twice a year. The third governing body is the synod. Now, a synod is a group of presbyteries in an area that has a minimum of at least three. The synod is responsible for implementing the mission of the church throughout the region, managing communication and functions among the presbyteries, and serving as mediators in the event of any conflicts. Each synod has a judicial commission that works on judicial issues within the denomination. Synods also have a synod moderator and a synod slated clerk. Both functions in the same manner as a presbytery moderator and slated clerk, except that we're in the higher form of the synod. The fourth governing body is the General Assembly, the highest governing body of the PCUSA. Until 2004, the General Assembly met every year. Now it meets biannually, with a current pause due to the ongoing pandemic. It's consisted of commissioners elected by the presbyteries, and its voting membership is spaced out between teaching elders and ruling elders. Its four main goals are to A. Set priorities for the work of the church in keeping with the church's mission under Christ. B. Develop overall objectives for mission and a comprehensive strategy to guide the church at every level of its life. C. To provide the essential program functions that are appropriate for overall balance and diversity within the mission of the church. And D. To establish the national worldwide ministries of witness, service, growth, and development.
Now, here are some fun facts when it comes to the Presbyterian Church. We have to remember that quite a few of our presidents were Presbyterians. Our 7th president, Andrew Jackson, our 11th president, James Knox Polk, of which he is a direct descendant of the founder of Presbyterianism, John Knox, James Buchanan, our 15th president, our 16th president, Abraham Lincoln, our 19th president, Rutherford Burchard Hayes, our 22nd and 24th president, Grover Cleveland, our 28th president, Woodrow Wilson, our 34th president, Dwight David Eisenhower, and our 40th president, Ronald Wilson Reagan. In addition to that, there are quite a few celebrities who are known Presbyterians. Debbie Reynolds, John Wayne, Sheryl Crow, Mark Twain, Robin Roberts, Dick Van Dyke, Neil Armstrong, Christopher Reeve, and Frank Gifford. Furthermore, there are 2 well-known Presbyterian ministers in the United States. Both of them have sadly gone on to be with the Lord, but both of them have made a tremendous impact in the United States. One of them is a voice that we hear all the time, Mr. Fred Rogers.
It's a beautiful day in this neighborhood, a beautiful day for a neighbor. Would you be mine? Could you be mine? It's a neighborly day in this beauty wood, a neighborly day for a beauty. Would you be mine? Could you be mine?
And probably the most well-known Presbyterian minister in the United States, the late Reverend Dennis James Kennedy.
Over the sides of the ship, they went back and shook him and said, "Master, carest thou not that we perish?" And Jesus calmly stood to his feet in the middle of the boat and calmly lifted his hands and calmly said, "Peace, be still."
Right before we go, I want to do this. I want to make sure everybody gets credit. I'm going to actually show you all of the synods and presbyteries in the PCUSA, as well as all of the moderators of the General Assembly and the slated clerks. So for all of you who are Presbyterian, this is my shout out for you. And there you have it. That is all I have for the Presbyterian Church USA. So I hope you guys really enjoyed yourselves. I hope you really enjoyed everything that I offered here. On the bottom of the description, I'm going to give you the cash tag. The cash tag for Minister Anthony Junebug Turner for all that he does. It is cash tag PT Ministries. Okay. For me, it is cash tag lowercase r, the number 0, BBIE84. So whatever leads into your heart, whatever you feel like you want to give, I appreciate it. I thank you all so much. Listen, do me a big favor before you leave. Number one, hit the subscribe button. My goal is to make 100 subscribers by the end of February. I'm currently at 54. I need you all to spread the word, okay? I really want you all to enjoy what you learn and have fun what you learn, and at the same time, get a better understanding. I also need you to hit the like button. Get those metrics up for me. I really want you guys to do that for me. We're going to start off 2021 strong. We're going to start out on top. We're going to start out strong, finish strong faith, okay? Before we go, I do want to pause. We have lost someone in the gospel industry, somebody with one of the most melodious voices have ever heard, and probably one of the greatest hearts, and that is Doranis Pace, the eldest sister of the Pace sisters. We ask that you keep that family in prayer. Later on, there will be a time in which we can memorialize and celebrate her life, but I did not want to go forward without us stopping to recognize Doranis Pace, who has passed away. Listen, my time is up. Thank you all so much for being with me. Until next time. Oh, wait. Y'all thought I forgot, didn't you? Told you about that surprise, right? What we're going to do for the next time. So the next time we will be discussing two people, Thomas Campbell and Barton Stone. Why are these two people so important? Go to the next episode. You'll find out why. Until next time, guys, I am Robbie Robinson. God bless you, and we're out.